Hey everybody, we're back in the shop again working on an L head, and lately I've been seeing a lot of guys having trouble with head gaskets and things like that. They're saying they're blowing their head gaskets, losing compression, and I just want to show you this head right here that we got off this L head, and I got a straight edge on here. This is a precision straight edge made by Starrett. Don't try and do this with a framing square or just a block of steel or something. And I want to show you how bad this head is. It says 20 thousandths feeler gauge. It's just gliding right under there. Okay, that's right in the center of the head here. We got 20 thousandths discrepancy, and probably got about 24 when we're on the diagonal. And it's all concentrated between 2 and 3. So you want to check your head real good, and we're going to check the block, the deck real good. But we're anywhere from 20 to 24 here. Let's check it out at the ends. And another thing I'm seeing a lot of guys doing is they're taking belt sanders to their head and trying to get it flat. That's not a real good thing to do. You'll never get it as flat as you need it. Okay, out at the end here, depending where I go, that's 15 thousandths. Got, oh, I don't know, probably 18 thousandths right there. This particular head is a little bit more distorted than I would like to use. I probably have to take probably 30 thousandths off of this head to clean it up. That's a little bit more than I like to take. I don't want to take that much off this head. I don't want to ruin it and make it too thin. A lot of things can happen. I'm not going to get into that right now, but this is a little bit more. I don't normally like to take any more than 10 thousandths off a head, and just a few thousandths off a deck on the block. This one probably took an overheat sometime, and it got warped. It's in real tough shape. This one for sure would give head gasket problems, and there'd be a lot of problems with this particular head. I have another one here, and I keep these in stock. If anybody has a cylinder head that's bad, I do try and keep them in stock as much as I can. But we're going to put that straight edge on this one. I'm going to get out the smallest feeler gauge I got here, which is 1.5 thousandths. Oops. Now this one's already been milled. I got 1.5 thousandths feeler gauge here. And you can see that's not going to go through anywhere. When you have your engine apart, now is the time to do all the machine work. Don't think you can get away with not machining the head or the deck. You'll just wind up with trouble. Now, this head has been pressure tested, it's been crack checked, and it's been milled. This is ready to go. I'm not going to waste my time and try and make that original head work. It'll just be problems down the road, and nobody wants that. So, again, this head, I keep marked at what I take off, and this head cleaned up in 2 thousandths. I can usually clean them up in less than 5. Extreme cases, sometimes 10, but that's all I like to go. I do not want to take 30 off that head. So I'm going to put a replacement head on this engine, and this is a very good head. Like I say, it's been completely gone through and ready to go. We're going to head over to the block right now, which is already on a milling machine, and we'll do another, we'll take the straight edge, and I'll show you what we got on the block. Okay guys, we're set up with the block on the mill, getting ready to deck it. This has just gone through a hot water wash, Everything is squeaky clean in there. And I want to just show you one area on here. Right in this area here. And right about there. We can get a 6/1000 feeler gauge. And that's just gonna, we got a little hollow right in here. And that again would just cause trouble. And you know, like I say, I see a lot of guys out there and they wonder why their head gaskets aren't working, and then they think a copper gasket might fix their problems, and there isn't a gasket out there that's going to fix any of your L or F head troubles if you don't do proper machine work. Don't go thinking that a double laminated Felpro gasket is going to fix a 6/1000 belly in here. You're going to eventually, the compression pressure is eventually going to ruin that gasket. It's going to blow out. You're not going to have good times. Don't try and do this with sandpaper. Don't try and do it with a belt sander. Don't flip it upside down on a table on sandpaper and try and work it out. It's not going to work out for you. Take it to a machine shop. Have it properly decked. I mean, you could just see by eye we've got gaps. And when I put an engine together, I like to have a perfect cylinder head. I like to have a perfect block. And when I put the gasket in there, it'll be good for another 75 years. It's critical you get these perfectly flat. And we do that here with the big cutter. And we're going to take a very light pass. I think we're going to be able to clean this up. Like I say, about 6/1000 there. I think we clean this up in 6/1000, not have any more troubles. Obviously, we're going to have to go in and cut the seats again, but it'll all be worth it. It'll be a good running engine. Perfect deck, perfect head. Any kind of gasket you put in there is going to work out for you. If you try and cheat it, and you're just doing a rebuild at home, and you don't get this right, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass every time. It will fail. Get these right, and you'll have you won't have to go back and get into your engine again. So let's set up, get this guy fired up, and we'll take some passes on here and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay guys, you've seen me do this plenty of times before, and I keep showing it because I just want to show the importance of starting with a flat deck and, like I say, a flat cylinder head. Now I got the cutter spinning, the spindle speed is 140. 1 3/4 inches a minute. I'm not going to hurry this. I take a nice light cut. This is a 1/1000th depth of cut right here. I just want to see where the cylinder head is and how much we're going to have to take off and see how it's cutting. So we're going to take our time. There's no need to rush this. The block is set up perfectly flat and the cut's going real good. And I'll show you what it looks like after the first 1,000th pass, and you'll see how much we're going to take on the second. Like I say, I keep showing this process because it's very critical. If you don't start here, you're going to have trouble. Just remember that. I'm trying to help you guys with your L heads and your F heads because I get so many emails and questions about why things are going bad. Start here and you won't have any trouble. Okay, here is our finished block. I thought I got some footage after the first pass, but apparently the camera wasn't on. Right now I'm at 5.5 and it's hard to see, but these blocks were stamped with inspector's marks. There's a C there, a D, there was an E. You could still make out the very bottom of the stamp, the letters that were stamped in there. I can still see the C. It's hard to pick up on the camera, but I can still see it very good. So we took the bare minimum off that, and we've got our 1.5 feeler gauge. Remember, this was a tricky area. We're getting a 6/1000 under there. We're very good there. We're going to put it across that way. We're going to go this way. Now I know when I put that cylinder head down and I have a gasket in there, I know I'm not going to have any trouble with anything. And it's going to be like that for the life of the engine. Start out right and you'll stay right. You know, I mean, everywhere we check, we want to check like this way also. If you take this to a shop and the machine is worn out, or they don't have the head set properly and the cutter is on an angle, you get a dish in here. You get a little bit of a dish, and I've had blocks come in like that from other shops where it was dished. You know, it was low in the center when you put the straight edge front to back. So just be careful and go to a reputable shop. I know they're getting harder to find. I've got engines in here from all over the country, and I know good shops are getting hard to find, and I believe that's why I'm getting so many engines lately, because there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of guys that are pretending they can put these engines together. I don't know why the bigger engine shops are having trouble with it, but I've had some startups on some engines from other shops, and they were assembled incorrectly, or things were just not machined properly. I put out a lot of videos on the L and the F heads, and I know I go over things a lot of times, and I do that because, like I say, my inbox is just full of the same questions over and over again of why doesn't my head gasket last. You have to mill the deck. You know, I'm trying to say it enough times. Hopefully enough people will see the videos. You have to start with 2 flat surfaces. There's no other way around that. Don't try and, you know, put gasket sealer or something like that under the cylinder head. I've seen that too many times. It just doesn't work. Do the proper machine work and you'll have a good engine. So, this being perfectly flat gives us a good stage to attach our boring bar here. We know this is flat, right angle to that hole. Now these holes are really worn out on the top, so we're going to send a boring bar way down there, pick up the center line, and we know with this surface we're not tilted this way or this way. We know we have a perfectly flat deck. Our bores are going to come out absolutely perfect when we set up the boring bar. Okay guys, we're off the mill and we're going to do some valve work now, and I'm just starting on number 4 exhaust. I just ran my cutter around there, and then I decided to check out what the factory seats looked like, and I've got our concentricity gauge set up here. Hang in there, let me see if I can get you focused on that. That's kind of tricky. Let me see if I can get up a little bit. Alright, we got this set up in number 1 exhaust, and we're just going to spin it. I think you can see that needle moving. Okay, we're at 0 there. -5 and plus. The lighting is terrible here, but we're plus 15. So we've got a 20 thousandths run out on the factory seat. And that's what happens. About the time you're going to need a rebuild, your seats are really going to be out of round by then. And if we put this engine together with the valves that came in, there's brand new valves, guides. If you remember that video, the valves were a little sticky. I went through, I reamed everything properly, and I was just checking the seat. concentricity out, and it's way out of whack. I tested a couple, they're all out of whack, and that's just free horsepower you're giving up. If you're hanging around with your buddies and everybody's zipping past you with their L heads, and you just can't keep up, you're probably losing some, well, not some, but a lot of horsepower through leaky valves. So let's set it up in this back one, and I'll show you what it should look like. Okay guys, we're on number 4 exhaust, the one that I just cut. I got the lights off. Hopefully the camera's better here. Let's spin this around. Okay, we have absolutely zero run out, and that's what you need on your valves. Zero run out. Like I say, that first one was 20 thousandths out, and your valves are never going to seal good that way. So there you can see we've got a perfectly concentric hole with the valve guide, and that's what we're looking for. And I keep going over things like this, the valves, and you know, the flatness of the block and stuff like that. I keep going over stuff like this, like I say, only because so many guys question it. I get so many questions about fresh rebuilds that have no power and leaky cylinder head gaskets and things like that. And I just want to show you guys, I have a video specifically on cutting these valves. I'm not going to get too crazy on this today. I have other videos that show the whole entire process of how to cut your valve seats, install your valves, and get them in the right place. So if you go back a few, you can see that. But we're going to work on the rest of the seats here, and we've got to cut them anyway because we decked the block. But I've got them all marked out. We're going to do a 3-angle valve job, and that's completely explained in my other videos. So we're going to keep moving on this block and get the valves done next. Okay guys, all the valves are in, seats are cut, everything's lapped in. I have everything numbered. There's 3 exhaust, 3 intake, 4 intake, 4 exhaust, the whole way down. These valves will now stay with that hole throughout the rebuild, and that's where it'll finally wind up. I keep everything numbered because each one has been fit to the hole. And now we'll just pull a vacuum on a couple of these so you can see what it should look like. Again, I've been over this a bunch of times, but like I say, a lot of guys still aren't getting it. So these valves don't have any springs on them or anything. They're just sitting in the hole. And you see how that guy jumps. Remember, when they jump like that, see that guy jump? You know you're in good shape when they're jumping like that. You know you've got a proper cut. So there's nothing pulling these down. We're just going to pull a vacuum, and I'll show you what that should look like. Okay guys, I got the vacuum pump running, and we'll stick it on number 1 exhaust. And you can see we're pulling 20 inches of vacuum. 20, 21. Okay, there goes both intakes. That's 1 and 2. You can see we're pulling good vacuum there. That's what that should look like. Let's take it off again. Okay, now let's stick it back on there. Okay, you see that pull a good vacuum? That's what you need. If you don't make sure all your valves are like that, they're going to be leaky. And like I say, there's no spring holding that, that's sucking that down in there yet. When your valves are just sitting there, your metal to metal contact should give you 20 inches of vacuum. Hook a vacuum gauge up to it. I got a little piece of polyurethane on the end right here. Put a little Vaseline around there to make a seal. Put it over the hole and pull your vacuum. Keep fitting your valve until you can pull a good vacuum. and you will have an engine that's very good on performance. You'll feel the difference when you drive an engine like this compared to if another person rebuilt it or another machine shop rebuilt it and they didn't seal the valves good. You can actually, it's a seat of the pants feeling that you'll get when your valves are sealing correctly. So spend some time on this. Take your time, get your valves fitting perfectly, and you'll feel it when you drive your Jeep for the first time after you put your rebuilt engine in there. So the valve work is done. We'll take the valves out, and we'll get busy with setting up the boring bar. Okay guys, we got the boring bar set up. We are sending it down the first hole here for the second time. I tried to get a 30 over bore, and it's not cleaning up the first hole. I knew it was going to be somewhere between 30 and 40. I'm at 40 right now. Number 3 I'm going to do next, because number 3 might not clean up at 40. So we just got to keep chipping away at it. You see everything is kind of moving slowly. It's feeding down. I took the first cut with one cutter. There's the cutter that I used. This was set up for a 30 over bore, and it didn't clean up the whole cylinder. I've got a 40 over tool in there now. You know, you just set the end here for what you need. We're cutting for a 40 over piston right now, and I hope number 3 cleans up. So when we get done with number 1 here, I will set up on number 3, and if 40 doesn't do it, we're going to have to pop all the way up to a 60, and I'm hoping that 40 does it. So I'll see you back when I'm boring number 3. Okay guys, here's the finished bores. I was able to clean everything up at 40 thousandths. There's just a little shadow in number 1, but that'll come out with the honing. Valves are done, bores are finished, and now we're gonna hone it. And I've done the honing a lot of times. We're not going to go over the honing again, but you could catch an earlier video if you want to see the cylinders being honed and the pistons fit. That's what we're doing right now, and we'll be back right after that. Okay guys, we got this completely bored, honed. I'm hoping you could pick up the cross hatching there. We got a nice cross hatch on the cylinders, and I'm just going to show you one piston, how we like to have them fit. You know, after you do a bunch of these, you can kind of feel what's right. But that's a nice fit for that. We got the we fit them with the feeler gauge, and again, I've got other videos like that. You can put a 3/1000 feeler gauge in there and get about 5 pounds of pull on it. But that is a nice fitting piston. We have every piston numbered to its cylinder, because there is a tiny bit of difference between pistons. So this is number 4, and they're labeled. So this has been completely hot water washed again. We've got it soaking in some oil, because you get some flash rust when you wash it. This is now ready for assembly, and the crankshaft came back today, and we're going to go over to the bench, take a look at that next. Okay guys, crank is back from the crank grinder. If you look at this rear main seal area, you know, I've kind of talked about this to death. You know, we're gonna fit the best gasket in here, the one that I don't like, for a stock crank. This was welded and ground 2-inch 335, and that works real good. I've been using the best gaskets with that dimension, and they don't leak. If you have a stock crank and your seal area is 2 inches 310, don't even use the best gasket. It's going to leak as soon as you start it up. I was very surprised when this crank came back. This crank has been polished, and the mains are standard and the rods are standard. And I haven't had a crank come back like that in, it seems like, forever. This was in beautiful shape. And like I say, the rods and the mains are standard size. They just did a very nice polished job on it, and I'm going to order the bearings for this this evening, and we will start putting this guy together next week. And Lyle, if you're watching this video about your engine, I know you have to book the ferry to get off the island, and I have just about everything I need to assemble this. So if you want to book it for July, I feel confident that everything will be finished. So I just hook up with you guys on the next video when we start putting the crank in and the rear main seal. I'm going to go over that again because a lot of guys are having leaky rear mains. We'll go over that one more time when I assemble this engine. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.